So finally, after years of watching this game, I finally decided to actually play it. And recently, we had the free weekend where we were able to actually just download the game and try it. And I was actually very impressed with this game. So I was going to be running through my review of this, showing the good and the bad of this whole thing. And of course, this is still an alpha. So as of this video, I'm going to be reviewing basically alpha 3.13. So hopefully a year down the line, I can do like a second review or maybe kind of like a follow-up type thing just to see how much this game advances. There was two big reasons and why I never bought this game initially, and I wanted to wait for a free play weekend type thing. One, I was worried that it wouldn't be able to run on my computer, which I just bought a new computer probably about 6 months ago. It's been very impressive with everything, so I figured that Star Citizen could run pretty well, and surprisingly it actually does. There are a lot of problems as far as like, you know, stuttering lag, and especially when you go to like big populated cities, it tends to get real choppy. You like barely breaking like 30 FPS, you know. And then it seems like for the most part, the graphic settings, when you put it up to high or if you put it to low, it doesn't really seem to matter. So obviously they have optimizing to do. And then also I heard that this is very complicated, as if it's a simulator. So I thought going into it that it was going to be very difficult to get into. And surprisingly wasn't. It wasn't as bad as I thought it was going to be. Mainly because I already played games like the Microsoft Flight Simulator, Elite Dangerous, and also No Man's Sky. So I already kind of were familiar with this type of game. So going into it, it wasn't really that bad. But putting all that aside, let's get into the meat and bones of this review. Let's start off with the good. So starting off with the gameplay, I have to break this off into 4 parts, because there actually is a good amount of stuff in this game. The major thing that you're going to be keeping in mind is that this is pretty much forming into a sandbox game where you can do whatever you want at any time you want. So it can go from basically taking bounty hunter missions to go hunt down NPCs. Sometimes they could even land up becoming PvP, depending on the type of mission. There's also trading from one planet to another or to the space stations and things like that. There's also delivery jobs, basically like the UPS of space, where you're just like grabbing packages and taking it to wherever they need to be delivered, you know, stuff like that. So it leaves a lot of room for a lot of things that you can do. So far, I'm really impressed with the amount of content in this. Now, talking about the flying, which is one of the biggest, most important parts. I mean, I'm assuming everybody wants to fly a spaceship. Getting into it, I actually thought it wasn't that bad. The major things going into it is knowing, one, how to board your ship. Usually there's a door, you have to climb up in it. In the beginning, it seems very complicated. There's a lot of buttons and a lot of things to memorize, but it eventually gets to the point where it's a no-brainer and you're just like flowing through. The flying part feels a lot like No Man's Sky or Elite Dangerous. It's very simple. Like you just literally just space bar to fly up, control to go down, you know, WSAD to move around. It's very simple. So I was actually kind of surprised by this, but I really like the process of doing all these things as far as sitting in your seat and turning the engine on and checking to see if your systems are good and, you know, all these things, because it makes it feel like a simulator, but the actual flying part feels kind of casual. So it's not super complicated. So it's nice. Now with ship combat feels a lot like No Man's Sky. Targeting systems, it has automatic targeting. You could even change it to manual if you want, but I haven't really messed around with that much. It's literally just point and shoot. So if you ever played any kind of space game, then you're gonna be very familiar with the way combat works in space. The first person shooter aspects are very impressive. It's crazy because it feels a lot like Call of Duty. It's very tight, very fast paced. You know, reloading and everything, like all the animations and everything are really well done, and it just feels like I'm either playing a Call of Duty game or a a Battlefield game. Like it's very, very good. The shooting feels nice. So overall, when it comes to like the gameplay section of this game, it just feels like there's literally like 5 different games in one, you know? Like, now let's talk about the Galaxy. The Galaxy already feels very, very huge. Right now, it's only like one solar system. I guess you would say it like that, solar system. But in this solar system, every planet I've landed on, every little space station that I've landed on, it's very, very detailed. They definitely put a lot of love into not only the way they look, but the way they also function. Getting in there, you know, clicking on computers and going to stores and buying weapons and checking out like ship equipment and stuff like that. Like it's pretty crazy the amount of detail that was put into this game. It reminds me a lot of what Cyberpunk looked like. And I'm probably going to be comparing this game a lot to Cyberpunk in a lot of ways, not in the bad ways, but more in the good, because you can see the amount of love that was put into the detail of the world. There's definitely a lot of passion that was put into this project, and you can already see it just from being able to travel around and going from planet to planet and seeing the way the cities are detailed. It's crazy. But going back to like how big this world feels, you know, like it still feels pretty massive. Being able to travel from like one planet to another, it still takes a long time, even with the, you know, the hyperdrive system. I think it's called quantum drive. That whole system of basically going from planet to planet still takes a while. Like sometimes you'll be waiting like 5 minutes, 10 minutes to get from one planet to another. It still feels like huge, you know, compared to the way it was in No Man's Sky, where when you fast travel from one galaxy to another, it's pretty much just a loading screen. No Man's Sky just feels like it's the same solar system every time. It's just like a new looking planet. It's the ice planet instead of the fire planet. You know what I mean? It's shit like that. Not to say that No Man's Sky is a bad game. I mean, they did an awesome job, even with all the updating. Like I salute that game 100%. Really love everything that they've done. But I'm just looking at the overall scope of what we're looking at as far as space games, and I feel like Star Citizen is definitely on the right track. Going back to like the amount of attention to detail, just the crazy amount of stuff you can interact with in this game, you know, from going up to like a little kiosk that has food, like a food court or something, and you grab like a bottle of water and then you can actually drink the water, or go inside your ship and open doors and check things out. Especially when I was tripping out with the whole going into the spaceship showroom and then just kind of interacting with the ships. It's crazy the amount of detail in there, like going in there, seeing jacuzzis and seeing like the bedroom, opening the door to the bedroom, laying down in the bed, you know, like all this amount of detail that was put into this is insane. And then you also have the guns and customizing the guns. It feels a lot like Escape from Tarkov, where you can actually customize the scope and add a silencer and do all these things. It's pretty insane, the amount of detail that was put into this. It's just mind-blowing. Now, let's talk about the bad. Performance issues. So, like I mentioned before about putting the graphics on high or putting it on low, it didn't really seem to matter. Well, that's pretty bad, because when you think about it, if you don't have an amazing computer, you're probably gonna have a really bad time with this computer, with this game. My computer, I have the specs in my description, so you can check that down below. I just recently got this computer, like I said, so I was expecting it to, you know, take it a little bit better. But for the most part, especially in the cities, I'm getting like probably at the best 25 FPS to 30. When I'm finally taking off and getting off of that planet, it starts to get better. And I noticed that when you go to desolate planets, like when you're going to do like a bounty mission or something, and then you land up at a cave area, the performance is like amazing in those sections because there's not as much detail in those. When I was mentioning a lot about the whole attention to detail thing, there's a lot of stuff that this game basically needs to show you. And you know, with all this amount of detail, it also adds a hell of a lot of performance issues. So this is probably going to be really hard for them to optimize. And I don't really see them doing too much to make it more accessible to people with, you know, lower tier computers. I feel like this game is like solely made for people that have amazing computers, like spaceships, basically. You know what I mean? So yeah, that's the biggest downside to this game. There are lots of bugs and glitches, server disconnects, crashes, which I only crashed like one time that I remember so far, which is actually pretty good. But server disconnects happen here and there, and especially when you're in the middle of like doing like a trade run or you're doing a mission or something and then you get disconnected. It's very, very heartbreaking, especially since most of the time when you get disconnected and you log back in, you're gonna spawn back at your bed in the city or something. Then you have to go through the whole process of like taking the train to the hangar and then get on the hangar, then call your ship and blah blah blah. It's just like nonstop. It's just a lot of work before it gets to the point where you start playing the game, basically. So these bugs and glitches could really get in the way, especially when it breaks the immersion when you see like NPCs just kind of standing and staring at walls, or they're just completely brain dead staring into nothingness because like you can't interact with them at all yet. Most of the NPCs are pretty useless. They're just there to be there, which is fine. I get it. They're like placeholders for now. But it kind of breaks the immersion, especially when you see an NPC walking into a wall, or you see them like standing on top of benches instead of sitting down on them. You know, like stuff like that is just very, very weird. And then when it comes to enemy AI, it's pretty much non-existent. The only challenge that I've seen is in the space combat. They actually try to shoot at you and stuff, and you know, there was one time I actually died from them because I was just overwhelmed by too many. You know, so that was like the only time it was good. On foot, when you do the first person shooter stuff, most of the time they're just so unaware of everything. You could be shooting like crazy and they still don't know where you are. They still don't try to like hide or anything. They just stand there. It's pretty sad, and obviously they need to work on this part. And then now I just need to acknowledge the elephant in the room right now. This game is pay to win, and in the way of basically buying of ships, you can go literally onto their main website and buy the best ships in the game and buy it for real life money, and you'll keep it forever according to them. So like even when they do a server reset, you'll be able to use that ship still. You can buy most of these ships in the game, but they're very expensive and you're going to be working really hard towards them, especially if you're a new player. Let's say if you're one of those starter level people like I am, where you just bought the $40 package that came with the bullshit little, you know, ship that you can't even store cargo on. If you start with that and you're trying to make money using that, you're going to take a while for you to make enough money for you to get an awesome ship, you know, because some of the bigger ships cost upwards millions of dollars. So prepare to grind your ass off, especially when you look at the competition part of this, because PvP is still a part of how the game functions. So you could accidentally take a mission that's to go kill like a high crime rate player or something, and you go out there and you're just gonna get your ass instantly whooped. Especially if they have a badass ship that they bought for real life money and they're already like set up, you know what I mean? So yeah, so this game can land up being really, really pay to win, which I get it. They got to make their money somehow. They're not charging a monthly subscription. And I kind of like the format of this because it reminds me a lot of what NFTs are, where you can basically trade the ships in the game. And I saw that there was a website to do that, which I already heard that it's kind of iffy with that website, because you know, if you end up trading your ship to somebody that doesn't give you the money, or they complain about it or something, it can end up being real bad. But I mean, that's the nature of just business in general. I mean, it can go bad even when you sell things on eBay. But I like the concept of this though, almost like getting collectibles or something. So that's really cool. I really like that aspect. But yes, it's pay to win. Overall though, I'm really starting to love this game. The thing that really interests me the most is just games that are are just complete sandboxes where you just do whatever the hell you want to do instead of feeling like you're forced to play it a certain way. Like, for example, Black Desert Online was one of those games where I was just very impressed with the amount of life skilling that you can do. Like, you can go and you can farm and whatever else. So you can basically play the game without ever killing anybody. Star Citizen is the same exact way. You can literally play the game without ever killing anyone. Or you can be only a bounty hunter and only hunt people down. You know what I mean? So you literally can play the game how you want. And that's the biggest thing that I really love about this concept. And I'm very excited for the future. They have a huge roadmap. We got a bunch of things coming out, gameplay improvements, new locations. You got new ships and vehicles, which they're always adding new ships all the time. It's crazy the amount of stuff that's going to be happening in the future. Also, when you look at ships that are coming up, like the Bengal, this is this big ass monster of a ship. That's basically reminds me a lot of PlanetSide 2, where they have those the bastions. Basically, I think that's what they're called. I totally see this game going into the route of becoming PlanetSide 3 with the amazing graphics. This game is just so next gen. And the detail and everything that's put together. So I'm really excited to see what the future holds for Star Citizen, especially since we already know that there is a mode that's going to be coming out that is similar to Battlefield, where you can capture points and stuff like that. So I'm looking to see where this is going to play out with all these aspects of flying and landing and getting in tanks and driving there and the FPS combat of shooting. And it's just it's going to be so awesome to see all this come together. But anyway, I'm really excited for the future of this. A year from now, I'm probably going to make a follow-up video and then just kind of see where this game is going or what has changed since this one. So look forward to that in the future. And more Star Citizen content coming up. I got a bunch of stuff to edit. But anyways, thanks for watching. Hope you liked the video. Leave a thumbs up if you liked it, thumbs down if you didn't. And I will see you guys in the next one. Later, guys.